Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you today. We have been working on this F-14 Tomcat pinball machine for quite a while now. We had a customer bring us this and it was in pretty rough shape, and they wanted us to fix it up, get the thing as nice as we could. So we are attempting to do that. So as you can see, we've got it. Huh! What happened? That was Jagoff, wasn't it? As you can see, we've got it up and running, but it's still pretty rough. So if you haven't been watching, we've done several videos. We did one on the condition it was in when we got it. We did one on the power supply. We did one on working on the MPU board, which had severe battery damage on it. I think we did a couple on that, actually. We did one on the display. We ended up putting an a LED display set in it. As you can see, they look very nice. And by doing all that, we've got the thing up and running, and it's actually doing its thing, but it's still a long ways away. We got a lot of stuff left to do, not least of which will be cleaning this playfield. We can't even play it yet because the playfield is filthy. Really, really bad. That's going to be a whole other thing. But I thought what we do in this video is let's start trying to get this thing to look a little better, right? So there's a bunch of little things we can do to make this look a little better. So the first thing I think I'll do is get this sucker on some legs. So we have ordered a new set of legs for it. Let's get it off of this cart. Let's get it sitting up on the floor like it's supposed to where it actually looks like a pinball machine and not the carcass of a machine that washed up on the beach. What do you think about that? So we're going to run through it. We're going to run through the legs. So give us a thumbs up here right at the beginning of the video. You know this is going to be a cool video. Look how cool this machine looks. It's pretty rough. You know we're going to work on it. So give us a thumbs up, and that'll help spread the video around YouTube's algorithm. We appreciate everybody that's been doing that for us. So let me go grab the legs that I bought for it. And let's check those out and see what they look like. So a good place to get these is from the good people at pinballlife.com. They should have gave them to me for free if I knew I was going to do an ad for them, but they actually have the correct ones that have the half rib. Now I'm not a super stickler about that kind of stuff, but if you can get the right one and not the wrong one, might as well get the right one. So on these Williams System 11s, they had the original Williams. I actually happen to have some right here. This is an original old school Williams leg. This is off of a Gorgar. So some of the early 80s machines, they were just smooth and chrome, right? And some of the 70s Bally games, they were just like that, except they were painted. Well, when they got up to the System 11 machines, they started putting these ribs on them. They go halfway down the leg. Later, they made it where the rib went all the way down the leg. So it kind of just depends on what year you get and what you're messing with. Yeah, I've got some of those over there. So it just depends on the game. So, but if you Pinball Life has these half rib ones. I don't know how many other places have those. But they're exactly what you need for a System 11. I also ordered some new back glass trim because the back glass, all the trim was missing. So it made it where you couldn't lift it out because there was no lift bar. But now there's a lift bar. So we'll put those on here in a little bit too. Okay, so you can't just put these on. We need leg levelers and bolts for it. So let me go get some of that stuff. Okay, we've got new leg bolts. 5/8 ratchet. New leg levelers. I cleaned up the side. It looks a lot better. It's not new, but a lot better. The back box, a little beat up. Those usually get a little more wear just because they stick out a little farther than the rest of the cabinet, so they hit something easier. But we might be able to touch up the black paint on that a little bit and make it look a lot better. So I'm going to go ahead and bolt all the legs on. I'm going to clean the other side, and then we'll see what she looks like with the new hardware on it. Okay, folks, so that's a huge improvement. Just putting the legs on it and cleaning up the cabinet a little bit. You see, the side art is not quite as bad as we first thought. It's coming together. It's coming along. It's getting there. And by the way, I always put mine where they're angled a little bit. Now, they claim that you can leave those levelers flat, and that's how the angle that it's supposed to be at. I like having them tilted up a little bit. If you don't like it like that, you can always adjust the back levelers. Okay, so the next thing that's bothering me is the back box. All the lights burn out, or not working, or something's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and replace all of those bulbs and see if we can get that looking pretty good. Are those 555s? No, those are 44s or 47s. Let's see. 44s. So one thing that I do, 44s were what were originally in a lot of them. If you take these out and put 47s in, they are a little bit dimmer, just slightly. It's almost imperceptible, and they're about 40% cooler. So it cuts down on some of the problems that people have with heat behind the back glass, and I mean the translite and the plastics and stuff like that. You could put LEDs in them. I personally I'm not a big fan of LEDs. If you want to do it, that's fine though. So you can put LEDs in yours. I like making mine look how they originally looked, and these originally came with incandescent lights. So that's what I'm gonna put back in it. Now it's not mine. I'm doing it for a customer, but he didn't tell me to put LEDs in it. So I'm putting the regular ones in it. So let me swap all those out, and let's see how many of those work. All right, every socket worked. So almost every bulb was burnt out, which is another one of the drawbacks for them not being LEDs. They burn out. LEDs don't burn out very often. But now they're all back and working. And I've replaced the 489 bulbs there. The quantity of 4 bulb number 89s. I don't know if those work yet. We could go into the test menu, but we've still got a long ways to go on this one. We'll be testing all that later whenever we test all the solenoids on the playfield. But I think next maybe we'll look and see if I can find that back glass and clean it and put that trim on it so we can put that in there. So this is how it came to us. It's actually in pretty good shape. It's a little bit faded or yellowed, I guess, but they all kind of do that. But it didn't have any of the trim around it, and it's filthy. So I'm going to clean it all up. It took me a while just to get the thing out of the back box, because there's this little channel that's supposed to be on it so you can easily lift it out. So let me clean it all up, both sides of the glass. This is just one of those, we call them flexies, because it's not a plexi, it's a flexi. So it's got a glass front and then just a thin translite behind it. So I'll take all that off, clean it up the best I can, and put it back together with that trim, and we'll see how that ends up. So that looks much better. Cleaned it all up, and now it's got the lift channel. So you get something to pull it out of there with. All trim, nice and clean. Let's go throw it in the machine. Okay, I think it looks great. Now we're going to have to take it back out, but now that it's all in, it's got the trim on it and everything, we don't have to worry about it getting damaged because it was flopping on that glass. And you can kind of see the thing starting to look a little bit like a pinball machine. Still needs plenty of work though. So I think next, I might start looking at the motor on the top, the beacon, because I don't know if I need to order a part for that or not. So yeah, we got to check that out. Basically the beacon never turns. Sometimes it makes a bunch of noise. So we've got to dig into that and see what's going on. I also have a new clear topper for it, so I'm going to replace that one. So let's see what's going on inside there. So I'm going to show you what this thing looks like, because we're basically going to mess with every little part of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the whole assembly, basically. It looks real complex, but it's not really, okay? So what they're doing is they're sending power to this little relay board. And then basically the blue and white wire, one of them runs up and is the power to the motor and the light bulbs at the same time. So there's a light bulb in each one of the 3 domes. Okay. The other one, there's a ground that runs to this relay, and then the other side of it is the ground connecting to the motor and the lights. So when the lights are on, the motor's on. So there's just a power wire and a ground wire that goes to everything. Everything runs off the same power. Nothing's turned on or off or anything like that. What is turned on and off is the relay. So if the relay's off, nothing's working. If the relay's on, the motor's getting power and turning, and the light bulbs are getting power and they're on. Okay? So by controlling whether the relay's on or off, you can control if that's on or off. It's as simple as that. But we need to take every little part out to make sure everything is working right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug this plug here, which means this whole top assembly can come out. And there's just some little 1/4-inch screws that hold it in place. And then we can put it on the counter and take a look at it. Okay, so I ordered a brand new dome. I went with clear. They also made white ones, but the one on this originally is clear. It's all yellowed and nasty looking, but we're going to see if just replacing the clear one makes it look better. They make white ones too, but honestly, I don't think the white ones look all that great. They look kind of cheap, so we'll see. This was in it. It's one of the belts. I'll show you that here in a minute. And then I found this in it whenever we were cleaning out the bottom, and I was wondering what that was for. But now that we have the thing out, you can see that it must have went on the middle. The other 2 have them, but this one doesn't. So that needs to be mounted back like that. Now, why is that off? Unfortunately, it's probably because they've been taking the motor off, which is probably because the motor's messed up. So we might have to order a motor, but we're going to check it. So how can you check it? It's not as hard as you might think. I also got new belts. So basically the way it works, you get power, and again, the lights, the white and blue wires, and the yellow wires, the motor, are all fed by the same power. And so the lights come on, and then the motor starts turning. As it turns those pulleys. The pulleys have belts attached to them that turns that around. So the light is not actually moving. It's just the reflector is moving. And all 3 of them have reflectors that are all moving at the same speed because they're all drawn by the same motor. Pretty cool. Now you could probably, I'll bet they kind of get out of timing anyway, even if you set them all a certain way. But it would be cool if they're all at different places. Like if this one's like that, and so it's reflecting the light that way, while this one's reflecting the light that way, and that one's reflecting the light that way. You know, where they're all just kind of going around everywhere. But I don't think, you probably can't time it perfectly because the belts probably slip slightly, or one's slightly longer than the other one, or whatever. So I'll bet they never get out of, I'll bet they won't stay in sync with however you put it. Okay, so how are we going to check if the motor's any good? Well, we're going to try it with a multimeter. So if you measure between the yellow wire and the yellow wire, you're basically measuring the core of the motor, the resistance. But you can't do it on this particular one because since they have these bulbs plugged into the same wires, the bulbs, are, basically a bulb is a short. The power goes through the bulb and it makes the element light up because there's an element connecting both sides. So we can still check it, we just have to take the bulbs out first. So I've got 7 ohms resistance, but it's because we're measuring across the bulbs. So if I take the bulbs out, so one bulb out, now I've got 9 ohms resistance. Still 9. That one was probably burnt. Still 9, okay. Look, there it was the wrong. So this was a bulb with a single filament. This was a bulb with a single filament, but the first one we took out was a bulb with 2 filaments. It's the wrong bulb. So this is a 1683, and this is an 1156. and then 1156. So where did this one come from? That came from the auto parts store. Okay, so we've got 9 ohms resistance across the motor. I think that's pretty good, actually. Let me turn it. So as you turn it, it will change probably. And so you're looking for a really low number, down below like 1 or something, or a really high number. Now I have no clue what that number would be, but 9 ohms resistance, it's basically telling us that there's 9 ohms of resistance across the motor. I don't know, man. That motor might be bad, but I think it probably ought to be working. So, another piece of information. I'm turning it one spot. You can kind of feel it go clunk, clunk. And so what it is it's the rotor in there that's like moving to the next field or whatever. I'm not an expert on motors, but you get the point. I think we're good, man. Okay, so another piece of information. The other day when I was messing with it, I could hear it trying to turn that on, and that relay was making all kinds of noise. So the relay could be bad. So how are we going to check that? Well, we can go into the test menu and check it with the voltmeter to just see if it's ever grounding and sending out the voltage that it should. So I've got my probes in there. I got my meter set on DC, baby. I guess it's DC. I guess I should check that. Yeah, it's DC. And then I've got it in test menu, trying to turn on the dome lights. And that's the meter, the relay being pulled in. Right? And I'm not getting any voltage. Let's check AC just to make sure I'm not tripping. Yeah, that ain't it. It's just a solenoid, so it should be DC voltage. Okay, so how are we going to find what the problem is? Well, if we look close, kind of hard to do with one hand. And I don't really know which one of them's ground. It's the one that's not coming from the fuse. Okay, so that's my 5. You have to bear with me for a minute here, folks. Okay, so I kept looking at it, and the fuse was blown. That could do it, but why did the fuse blow? So now, whenever it clicks, you do see some numbers bounce around. I don't know if that's the right voltage, but since we're getting movement, it's probably because the relay's turning it off before my digital multimeter can catch it. So I think we're cool. And, you know, we tested that motor. If it never gets below 9 ohms resistance, that shouldn't blow a fuse. So why was the fuse blown? They had a 3 amp in it, and it's supposed to be a 4 amp. So we might get lucky, and it was just because it was the wrong fuse. You know, if it needs a 4 and you put a 3, probably going to blow it. Okay, so I got the other deflector mounted on there, and I put the new rubber rings on it. You have to take the motor off to do that because I have to go around those. And I've got them lined up. We'll see if they stay like that. I don't think they will, but just for giggles. And also, while we're doing that, I took the old dome off. There's the new dome. Can you believe that? Pretty wild. Now, the reason they made this white on the later ones is because if it's white, then you can't see the actual bulb in it, you know. But the original one on this one was clear, so I'm putting the clear one back on it. Okay, so I guess I'm going to mount that back in and see if the motor blows the fuse or if the motor turns or what. I guess I need to put bulbs in it too. Let me see if I can find the right bulbs for it. So the motor appears to be just fine, but that bulb is the one that I was saying looked like they bought at a car parts place is the only one that's the correct bulb. Can you believe that crap? So the other two are 12 volt bulbs, and one of them is shorted, which very well could have been what blew the fuse. The bulb itself tests shorted, like there's a dead short in it somehow. I don't know how they did that, but whatever. So I got to get some of those bulbs. Those are 28 volt bulbs, but they say you can get those at auto parts stores too, because they're used on like trucks, trailers sometimes use a bulb with that voltage. The reason that it's just spinning really crappy like that is because since it's in test, the game is just turning it on and off, on and off, on and off. Whenever it does one of these, it'll just kick the solenoid over and over again. It's just trying to test it. So, but it looks like the motor's just fine. So I just need to get me some bulbs. Man, that's bright. I love it. No LEDs necessary. Good Lord. Wait till we get the other two in there. It's back doing its thing. After all these years. It's probably been broke for 30 years. Alright, well it's starting to look a heck of a lot better. It's starting to look like an actual pinball machine. So we've got it cleaned up a little bit. Now we're about ready to mess with the playfield. Ugh, which is going to be the craziest part. So I think what we'll do is under the playfield first, where we can test switches and lamps and flashers and all of that stuff, and then we'll start tearing the playfield apart. So, but we've got it looking much more presentable now. We also touched up a little bit of the black paint on the back box to make it look a little better. As you can see, it came out pretty presentable. So it's starting to, you know, the playfield will make or break it, but it's starting to look like a pretty decent machine. So we've got the new legs on it, new leg levelers, new leg bolts. We got the back glass all cleaned up, new trim around it with the lift channel. The displays we did on the last video. Before that we did the MPU, which had tons of battery damage. We did the power supply, so all of that should be good now. And then we just got the beacon working again, which is a big part of the game, really. I mean, that's kind of one of the coolest things about it. So we got it working again. Got the belts on where all three of them are moving. That's good. Waiting on the bulbs, though. Got the new dome on it. And it's up, sitting in a track mode, looking pretty, except for that playfield. So we'll do that on the next one. So let us know what you think so far. Is that playfield going to clean up? Is it worth spending a little money on this thing like we've been doing? I think it is. What do you think? Should we have went with the white dome? Is it going to blind you? I'm sure that's why they changed it from clear to white at some point, but this one had the clear one on it original, so I'm putting the clear one back on. That's period correct, people. So leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. Give us a thumbs up for filming it for you. Make sure to check out our webpage. Go to lionsarcade.com. You can see all the games that we have available for sale. We're just repairing this for a gentleman, but for the games that we have for sale, you can see on our website. You can also see our parts, some of the parts that we use in some of the machines whenever we're working on them. And then also our merchandise is on there. So if you want to get like a t-shirt or a coffee mug or a picture for your wall or something to help support the channel, go check that out, lionsarcade.com. Thank you to everybody that's been using our Amazon links. If you don't know about that, down below there is a link to Amazon. If you go to it, it gives us money. Thank you for that. So if you're going to buy anything on Amazon, click our link first, and just by doing that, it gives us a little piece of it as a referral since we sent you there. And finally, last but not least, make sure to check out our brother channel, My Brother Donnie. That's the name of his channel, My Brother Donnie, and it's literally My Brother Donnie. So if you like watching us work on these old arcade games, pinball machines, and jukeboxes, you might like watching Donnie, and sometimes me, work on old buildings. We've got some little buildings in a downtown of a small town near here that we're trying to fix up to help revitalize the town, get them ready to rent and get some businesses back open downtown in this little town near here. So go check that out. It's pretty fun. And we will see you over there. But I'll see you next time when we break into the playfield finally. We got to get that thing ready. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good evening.